Hello, and welcome to the Untitled Gen X podcast, a podcast dedicated to the pop culture that raised us. I'm Lori, a writer and pop culture lover who's bringing you something a little different this week. Badass podcaster Amye of the killer Gen X This Is Why podcast invited me to join her to discuss Saved by the Bell's iconic Season 2 episode, Jessie's Song, aka I'm so excited, I'm so scared, aka Jessie Takes Pills, you guys. Follow Gen X This Is Why for all the Gen X goodness and check out the show notes so you can get to know and love them as much as I do. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hey everyone, Amye here. Today, I'm teaming up with Lori from Untitled Gen X podcast. Hi, Lori.
Hi, Amye. I'm so happy to be here.
And I'm thrilled to do this with you. So for those of you who don't know me, if you're listening to this on Untitled Gen X podcast, my name is Amye and I am part of a podcast called Gen X This Is Why.
Yes.
And we look at old shows like Little House on the Prairie. Okay. Are you a Little House person or Waltons?
Little House, most definitely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
see?
indeed.
Yes, that's the right answer.
Oh, I'm so glad I passed the test.
So Lori and I, we decided to team up today and talk about one of the most iconic episodes in Saved by the Bell history. And I'm going to let Lori introduce it because she was the brainchild. This was the brainchild of Lori. And the minute she said, I reached out to her and said, hey, you know, I love your podcast. We need to do something. I just listened to your 90210 episode.
Oh, it was a fun one.
It was a fun one. And you were the genius who said we need to do Saved by the Bell Jessie's Song.
It's iconic. I mean, when I think back on my Saved by the Bell history, and it is extensive, that is the episode that just jumps out. I mean, it's at this point, it's infamous, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
it's the one we all think of. It's like, I love that they were able to display some real acting chops. And, you know, it's like
Were they?
Yeah, okay. I mean, like, in terms of Saved by the Bell-ness.
Yes.
Indeed.
On the scale of Saved by the Bell.
Yes. The scale is questionable, but yes. I love that show growing up. And this episode, I mean, it just kind of falls in line with that whole 80s/early 90s very special episode stuff that we were just inundated with, right?
Yeah, 100%. My sister and I, we have a Patreon and we just finished doing a bunch of different after-school specials.
Ooh, so fun.
Yes. So we just kind of are coming off of this same kind of rhetoric of, you know, you take one pill, your life's destroyed.
It's over.
It's very extreme in Gen X, right?
Yes. I mean, I think they were just trying to like really scare us straight. I did a episode in season 1 of my podcast about the anti-drug PSAs of the 1980s. And it was just very, you know, bang you over the head with this messaging and scare you straight. And it didn't make a whole lot of sense. I will say that, you know, admittedly, that stuff kind of worked for me because it
kind of worked for me too.
Did it? I was just really sort of scared straight about all of it.
Me too.
For a lot of kids, it was just sort of like, this is so extreme. I can't relate to this. It's not really drug and alcohol and sex education. It's not like risk mitigation. It's just like, don't do it. And that didn't work for a lot of kids. I think a lot of kids were just like, I don't even know what to do with this ridiculous messaging.
Right.
So,
and
I don't know.
we watched Stoned with Scott Baio, which was hilarious on many different levels. I have a hatred for Scott Baio that's real deep. Real deep and real strong.
I like that.
Yeah. So, we were watching it, and one of the things that they were talking about is there was, and I don't know if you remember this, the idea that if you smoked weed, you would be infertile. Like it would mess with the male sperm count.
Okay.
And the teacher, who's a former stoner in the show, is like educating them about this. Like, the government has developed research that it can affect your sperm count. And really, like, my sister kind of looked into it because she does the researchy, nerdy part of our podcast. And she was like, no, there's really no evidence. It's if you smoke, like, just tons and tons.
Like, all you
tons.
do is smoke. Yes.
So just those kind of messages, though. Like, if you do drugs, you're never going to be able to have kids. And I've always said, what would have been way more effective is if they started doing documentaries about, like, what drugs do to people. And, you know what I mean? Like, go take the camera down to Skid Row and show us what's going on.
Yeah, and have kids who are, like, struggling in the throes of addiction because it's a very serious issue. Have them talk about their experiences. You know, kids that look like us, who come from backgrounds like us. It would have been so much more effective to interview and follow kids from a wide variety of backgrounds, from different, ethnicities, from different geographic locations, so we could see ourselves in these kids. But no, that's not how that
didn't work.
No.
What, you mean your friend doesn't have a dad who's a record producer looking for the next New Kids on the Block?
No. Zack is the actual worst. Like, we will get into that. What an asshole. Swear.
He's awful.
He is.
Another thing that I wanted to say is, you and I are we exennials? Are you an exennial? Because I think I am. I'm 77.
That's how you identify in the generational. No.
I identify as Gen X.
Okay, you identify as Gen X.
Yeah, I think technically I'm an exennial.
So there's a lot of theories about this, as I'm sure you are well versed. It's very interesting that Gen X is defined. I mean, I've seen the years, they're not completely defined, but I've seen them generally speaking as 1965 to 1980. And traditionally, the generations are 20 years. And so it's very interesting that Gen X is only 15 years. And we have, like, our early Gen X and we have our later Gen X. The 76, 77, indeed, later Gen X. And our experience is pretty different from those that were 1965 to, like, maybe, 1972, if you want to look at that. But I in no way identify as a millennial, even on the cusp of that. I just really don't. Like, okay, my childhood was in the 80s proper. And my teen years were in the 90s exclusively. I think I turned 14. Yeah, I turned 14 in 1990. My whole high school was, grunge and alternative and all of that. It wasn't like cool hair metal, but that was still part of my life, a really important part of my life, a new wave and all of that.
And I think there is a distinction, though, between the people who were teenagers in the 80s.
Yes.
Which Jenny
had to have been amazing.
I know. My sister and I kind of learned it the hard way, though, when we did Pretty in Pink and we were gushing about Heathers and we were kind of talking about John Hughes films and how they can be problematic. And people came for us. It's like, okay. Sorry,
those are some beloved films. I mean, John Hughes, I covered...
And we love them. We love them. But we were just kind of pointing out some stuff that was dated and you know what I mean.
My co-host in season 1, we covered Heathers and we both loved that film growing up. We loved it. On the rewatch, we were like, this is deeply problematic. This is super disturbing.
Dark.
It's so dark. Knowing everything we know, what has happened with school violence since, mental health, homophobia, fat shaming. It was horrible. Like sexual aggression, sexual assault. It was rough.
It was rough, but I have to tell you, that was closer to my experience in high school than Pretty in Pink. Yes, and maybe it has to do with socioeconomic factors.
Okay.
I grew up in a really depressed area. We were, lower income. Like, maybe it had to do with that. I don't know. But it was really, that was closer to my experience. Not so much the violence, which, by the way, I am a writer, and I just finished a book on school violence, and I worked with 100 survivors of school shootings, and we did that
Wow.
book. So I like kind of live in that world, and seeing
Okay.
that movie again really was hard for me to
I
watch
bet.
because I was like, why are we so casual about Christian Slater whipping out a gun? And you know, you just have to kind of keep in perspective that the world was a different place.
The world was definitely a different place. I felt like Heather's was meant to be dark humor, satirical, to shine a light on these issues. But I mean, it shined a very uncomfortable, bright, fluorescent spotlight that's hurting our eyes. And it was, I found the rewatch very hard.
It was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. Yeah, we had a long discussion about it, and it was, you know, my sister laughs about it, and she's like, I was in love with Christian Slater's character in this movie. He's a sociopath.
He's
Like,
a sociopath.
what is
It's all
happening
red
here?
flags. It's just a movie of red flags.
Yes. Yes.
Them heart-shaped red flags, man.
But I feel like that's kind of the generational divide in Gen X. Is you either Heather's was kind of your thing or Pretty in Pink was kind of your experience. And the millennials, I don't know. I mean, I'm a teacher. I teach a lot of millennials. I teach freshmen in college, and I've taught millennials. I don't really have them now, but I'm telling you, this new generation, this iGen, which my daughters are part of,
Okay.
they're amazing.
I think so, too. I'm a
The
big
millennials
fan.
were great, too, but these guys are amazing. Like, they're going to save us all.
I'm a big fan. I have a 19-year-old and a 14-year-old.
Oh,
and
so I have 14-year-olds. There
oh,
you
you
go.
too?
Same
Okay.
age, yeah.
Yes. I think today's youth, I think they're incredible. I know that it's, you know, the popular Gen X thing. Actually, any generation to be like, poop on this, you know, up and coming generation. We were the best. We were better. We could write cursive. We can look at an analog.
My kids could write cursive.
Yeah,
by the
I mean,
way. I don't know
I'm
where
just
that
sort
started.
of like, I mean, really? Is this like really a thing? I don't know. I think they're incredible. I think they're so smart.
incredible.
They're savvy. They're tapped into current events. Their worldview is so much bigger than mine was. I don't know. I'm a fan.
I'm a fan too.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. So, all right. Well, let's get to Saved by the Bell, Season 3, Episode 9.
Okay, so
Jessie song.
This is kind of debatable. So I have seen this listed as Season 2, Episode 9, many places.
Oh, do I have it right or
No,
wrong?
okay. So you neither have it right nor wrong. On Hulu, where I found it, it is Season 3, Episode 9.
Okay.
Everywhere else, IMDb, all over the internet where it's mentioned, it is Season 2, Episode 9. So you guys, I don't know, Google Jessie song and figure it out. It's debatable. Okay. However, it debuted November 3rd, 1990.
1990. Okay, so I was 13.
Okay, yep, I was 14.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And Elizabeth Berkley, you know, Jessie Spano, she was really excited about this episode. Like, she said, we are going to explore something different and we are going to go deep. As a young actress, I was finally going to have something juicy. All the others felt the same way. Like, oh, wow, we're going to really act this week, Amy. It's not just who's going to ask who to the dance. So
It's not just going to be Zach somehow treating Screech like shit.
No, it's going to be that too. Like, there definitely has to be an element of that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so on this very special episode, we open on Jessie with Zach and Screech at the Max. And Jessie she's drinking her coffee to stay awake. She hates it. She hates coffee. I'm like, oh, girl, you have so much to learn. But she's drinking it because she's studying for her geometry midterm. And Amy, she still just doesn't get it.
Yes. Do you let your kids drink coffee? Well, I know you have a 19-year-old, I'm assuming.
You know what?
But 14?
I do. It's not a
do
regular thing, but sometimes they'll be like, can I have some coffee? I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Yeah. Now, I am very, very against energy drinks. I'm very against like Monsters and things like that.
I've
this
never even had one.
I haven't either. It goes back to like, I heard one time it'll make your heart explode. I'm like, that'll happen to me. And so I tell my kids, like, you can't drink those drinks. Your heart will explode.
Everything we've learned from like an Old Wives' Tale. Everything we know.
I swear, it's like that anti-drug messaging. Like, I believe it. I'm like, don't drink that.
Yep.
Bad for you.
Mm-hmm. Don't do Pop Rocks and Coke. Just don't.
Just don't.
Ever.
Like, we just don't know. Like, don't do it. Yeah. So she's drinking her coffee. She's all stressed out. We find out she's super obsessed with getting into Stanford. Like, so she has to do really, really well on this midterm. It's super important. Okay.
So I haven't watched Saved by the Bell in a long time. I watched it religiously when I was that age. Was this a line they carried through, or did they drop it? Did Jessie ever go to Stanford?
That's a really good question because I watched it religiously also. And I also watched it when they had the college years. Yes.
And she wasn't there, right?
She wasn't there. I think this is when Elizabeth Berkley got her big, like, showgirls break.
Yes.
And, like, she was going to be the next big thing.
Yeah.
I have to assume that, like, she got into some sort of Ivy situation. I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it seems like they would just drop it. If it was Little House on the Prairie, they would just drop it. You would never hear about it again.
Like, there's no through line here. Like we're just going to throw this out here and then we're just going to forget about it. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so Slater pops in, and this is where he makes, oh my God, Amy, some like tired, misogynistic crack about her filling her pretty little brain with geometry. Yep. He's like, guys are great at math, and, you know, he's like, it's a shame you weren't born a man. Like, I just...
First of all, all the research indicates that women are just better performers in school. They just are.
Okay.
Like, boys are not. So I don't know where he's getting this. He's just reinforcing the STEM stereotype.
Most definitely. Now, I will say, I am terrible at math.
I'm terrible at math, too.
I'm terrible at it. But, like, it doesn't mean that all women are bad at math. I know a lot of women that are very good at math.
And they're usually better students is what I mean.
Like, more disciplined.
Like, yes, yes.
But, you know, Jessie, she's a feminist icon. I think we can agree. She's always dishing it back. She's like, it's a shame you weren't born one either, you know? And the studio audience loves this. They're like, go, Jessie, you know? Yeah. So it just sounded gross. Like, it didn't age well. And I know that's the whole shtick. That's their whole shtick. Mm-hmm. But, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. So Kelly and Lisa pop in, and the girls just simultaneously break into the Pointer Sisters' I'm So Excited. And Amy, I mean, how did you feel about this?
Did that come out at that time? Like, were we doing some product placement?
That song was released in 82. This is 1990. Peter Engel, who was the producer and a writer on Saved by the Bell, he said, we just liked the song. We thought it would be cool if they sang the Pointer Sisters. I'm like, so this is a middle-aged white man writing this show because kids today, boomer saying, you know, this is peak entertainment for today's youth. It was super weird. I agree. It was a weird choice.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was a weird choice. And I don't know. I mean, I never hear my kids just randomly break out into song together like a choreographed
No, I mean, I wish people would.
number.
Like, I really do. I'm a big fan of that. But, like, it doesn't actually happen. And the guys are, like, blown away by their performance. And it's the most basic, like, stupid. Like, all they did was sing the chorus. It was not special. There was no harmony. Like, it was bad.
No. Mm-mm. No, it was better than I sing, which when I sing Animals and Birds Go Running. But it was like I wasn't blown away by it in any stretch of the imagination.
Whatever. Okay.
Very regular.
Zach, you know, like, so he just automatically, he sees the dollar signs, right? He's like, hey, my dad's friend is a record guy and he's looking to form a girl group like New Kids and, you know, I'm going to be your manager.
Oh my God, why didn't they have them sing a New Kids song? Wouldn't that have made more sense with the plot?
Yeah, like, did they have to, like, pay royalties. Maybe it was like a licensing issue.
Maybe. I will tell you, I feel what I echo what you're saying about Zack Morris. Have you ever watched the Zack Morris is Trash?
Yes. He is trash. It's so good, right? Is that Funny or Die?
It's Funny or Die, yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. It's brilliant. I feel like
trash.
they were at the peak, like they were the forerunners of let's look at the stuff from Gen X again and see where it fits.
Like, what the fuck, you guys?
Yes.
Like, what were we thinking?
Yes. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. So we're now in geometry class, and Jessie gets a C on her quiz. She freaks out.
This is the most Gen X thing I've ever seen in my life. I am a teacher. This teacher is handing back grades and announcing them to students. Zach, you have a C. Jessie, you have a C. Slater, you have a B+. I would not only lose my job, but I think I would be violating some sort of like FERPA law if I started
just announcing.
We are just not allowed to do that. I mean, they don't even like us to remember. Our teachers would write on the board like 10 of you failed, and 15 of you, and it's just such a real piece of the Gen X childhood that humiliation and shame was kind of built into the curriculum in school for us. And our kids are growing up without that. And I think it's so nice to see that things have changed that way.
I mean, it really is humiliating for someone who's like Jessie, right? She's a perfectionist. She's got a long road ahead of her in her life. As someone who is wired that way, I'm like, Jessie, it's going to get hard for you. I identify with that.
It was just unbelievable to me. Like, my sister and I had a big conversation when we did, I forget what movie we did, but we were talking about this specific thing. And I told the story about how my 8th grade science teacher told me that I was too fat to wear the leggings I was wearing.
Are you kidding me?
In front of the entire class.
And what did that have to do with anything?
Right. And I was probably like a size 10.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. Like, humiliation was just...
Oh, Amye, I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Constantly heaped on us. Yeah, it was really bad.
Oh, my gosh.
But that was a lot of kids in Gen X dealt with stuff like that. Like, teachers just humiliated you. It was really weird. And I don't know, did you have the paddling? Like, did kids get paddled in your school?
Okay, so they did. I actually went to a private Christian school from kindergarten through 6th grade, and I moved to public school in 7th grade. And yes, the principal had a paddle. He used it. And I didn't know if that was just like a private school thing. Like, they could do that because it wasn't part of the public school system. Was that part of the public school system?
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable, yes. And then they wonder why, like, so many people hated school.
Right. Like,
it was survival of the fittest.
We were being humiliated. We were being abused.
Yes. And, like, I was a pretty good student. I never personally got paddled. But, like, I had the secondary trauma of witnessing other kids get paddled.
So,
it was really
they would
crazy.
Actually do that in front of other students?
Sometimes they would. It depended. Yep.
That's
really
so
crazy.
Unbelievable to me.
So this teacher handed back these grades. That just hit something with me.
Oh, my gosh. So Jessie's freaking out, and Slater's like, Jessie, you know what? I'm a man. I will come and I will help you and your pretty little head learn some math. I'll go to your house and I'll help you. Okay, fine.
Slater's the worst.
He's the worst. I swear. So
there really wasn't a guy on that show that I like that I identified with that I would have a crush on.
You know, thinking back, I think I crushed hard on Zack because he was cute. I think at that point I wasn't really looking and or caring about behavior.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think I just thought he was cute. And I'm like, oh, he's cute. All the girls like him. I like him too. I think it was like that
You're
basic.
right, because 13-year-old Amye was probably like, if you had to pick, I would pick Zack.
Right.
Probably.
Right.
But
I mean, Slater was just so muscly. I don't know. That wasn't really like my thing.
Give us a Dylan McKay. Give us a third option or fourth option besides Screech, Slater, and Zack.
Give us a 30-year-old pretending to be a high school student. Right?
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Okay, so this is when Zack, he's the king of great ideas, Amy. He's like, hey, my little minion, Screech, you need to take a tape recorder into the girls' locker room to record the girls because that's where they sing. You need to go do that. And Screech is such a dumbass. He's like, yeah, okay, I'll do that because you asked me to.
Consent is just not a thing.
Oh, no. I mean,
it's just not a thing.
Like, whatever. Yeah. So this is when we cut to the girls in the locker room. We see Jessie, and she's studying her geometry.
Like a good girl.
The locker room. Yes. Mm-hmm. She's like, does anyone know how to bisect the vertex of an isosceles triangle?
Yeah, she might as well have said something in French.
Yeah.
I was not getting it. No.
Yeah. So Screech pops in, right? Dressed poorly disguised as a woman. He's wearing a dress, a wig, glasses, a handkerchief on his head, giant fake boobs, and he's holding a mop, right? And then, like, with a super shitty Irish accent, he sees depressed Jessie and says, when I'm depressed, I sing a song. And Kelly and Lisa come in and they're like, that's a great idea. They're not questioning who is, this person in our locker room.
Who is clearly Screech.
Clearly, like you would never not think that was Screech.
No. Mm-mm.
In fact,
Never.
that's the most Screech ever looked like Screech. Like, right? It was just so stupid. And they're like, yeah, this is a great idea. Let's sing. And again, they sing 1982's smash hit by the Pointer Sisters. I'm so excited.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, whatever.
I don't know anyone who was listening to that song at that point in time.
No. I mean, I remember being
Guns N' Roses was around. What are you doing?
like literally anything would have been better. Like
Give me some Welcome to the Jungle.
anything.
Patience? Was Patience out? Come on.
Anything. Yes. Okay, so the girls sing, and we cut to Jessie's, and Slater is helping Jessie study, and she's frazzled. Zack pops in through the window like no big thing, and he tells Jessie, like, the record producer loved the tape, loved you singing. And she's like, what? And she's got a problem with the privacy aspect. Yeah, how did you tape us? And then that's just, forgotten about the minute Zack, gaslights her and tells her the record, exec thought you were the best. Like he could even tell who was singing, who's the best. It was stupid. And she's like, oh,
Zack,
okay.
Like, Zack can just, for as sophisticated and suave as he was, he just can never read a room.
Oh, no.
Like, I'm just going to dump all this pressure on you. And I don't even care enough to read the room to know that you are literally collapsing under the weight of this.
He's such a narcissist.
Yeah, he cannot see beyond himself.
Oh, no.
No.
Mm-mm. And everyone around him just allows it. It's just that's Zack. They pretend like it's charming. And when I was young, I think I somehow thought that was charming because that's what everyone was telling me.
Yeah, like we just thought it was funny.
It was funny.
Yeah, when he used to clearly abuse Screech, we thought it was funny.
And he wasn't always nice to the girls in his life and in his relationships. And we were like, it's okay because he's cute.
It's not okay. It's not okay. And we just did, you're right. The messaging was just, here's the hot popular guy and he could treat everybody like shit and he doesn't need consent and he doesn't need to think about others.
Nope.
There we go.
Nope.
Zack Morris is trash.
Zack Morris is trash. He's cute and popular trash. Yes. Yes. Zack leaves. Jessie wants to keep studying, and Slater's like, I'm tired. Like, we've been at this for hours. I'm tired. I'm going to go. And she's like, no, we can keep studying. And this is when she pulls out her bottle of pills. And she tries to push some over-the-counter caffeine pills on him. Look, we could take these. We could stay awake. It's fine.
Yep. Did you read, I don't know if it's a rumor or speculation or if it's true, that they originally wanted her to be hooked on speed?
They did.
And then they toned it down?
They did.
Is that true?
Yes, because NBC said, you know what, no, we cannot hang with any references to hard drugs. So it was supposed to be amphetamine, speed, and so they swapped it out for caffeine pills. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that's a true story. And we find out that Jessie bought these at the drugstore, and she's like, they're just like coffee, but they don't taste as bad. And Slater is the one that reads the label and is like, these are a lot stronger than coffee. The label says they may be habit forming. And I wanted to ask you, Amy, do you remember, like, Jessie wanted to be a doctor? Did I make that up? Is that true?
No, I think you're right. I think she wanted to be a doctor.
Okay, so she's, presumably the super smart girl. She wants to go into the field of medicine. She buys this thing over the counter and makes all kinds of assumptions that it's safe. She doesn't even bother to read the label. Like, this does not seem like something that Jessie Spano would do.
No, and I feel in a weird way, now that I think about her and Slater's dynamic, it's almost like they have, I don't know if there's an official syndrome for it, I can't remember, but it's like they are both victims of Zack. And they're just trying to like band together and survive, and I don't even think they realize what's happening.
I love that because I actually think we were all victims of Zack Morris. Like, we all drank the Zack Morris Kool-Aid. Yes. We did. Yeah, so it's super weird, and Slater's like, just because you can buy it at a drugstore doesn't mean it's safe. And she's like, oh, okay, well, maybe you're right. And I guess she just says that to placate him because he leaves and she proceeds to take more because she has to study and, YOLO. So
yeah, gotta keep taking it.
Gotta do it.
I have to admit, like we mentioned, I was so terrified of pills at this age. But I still kind of am. And I feel like that's a Gen X thing. You're right. Like, my husband's a Gen Xer, will not, like, I have to fight with him to take Advil.
Really? I have no problems with the Advil.
Can I take 3 Advils?
I don't like to be in pain. And, we're getting older, Amy. Things hurt.
Yep. Now I'm starting to Google, like, can I take 3 Tylenols, 2 Advil, and 7 Benadryl?
What will happen? And, back then we couldn't Google that. We couldn't Google it.
No, you relied on those urban myths. Yeah. You just relied on those.
That's how we got our medical information. Yes. Absolutely. And after school specials. That's how we.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? So we see her in the next scene at the Mac. She's studying. She's hanging out with Mr. Belding.
She's hanging out with Mr. Belding.
It's weird.
I don't know what kind of school you went to, but the principal was our enemy. Like, you were the one adult in charge of all of us. You're the enemy.
And I don't even know that I felt like the principal was the enemy as much as I felt like the principal was scary. And it was like, there was never that blurry line of like, oh, we're friends. I think even in the opening credits, when they show Mr. Belding, the title credit of who plays him, I think he's like laying down on one of the kids' beds. And I was like, that's odd.
Wait, what?
Am I making that up? I feel like I saw that. I didn't make a note, but I was just like, oh, it struck me as odd. Like,
I feel like that's a bridge too far.
This episode could have been on the opening montage. We could have talked all about it.
Post-coital?
Ew. Oh my God. No, I think he was just like he's fully clothed, but like he's like laying down like blah, 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 talking to someone.
Yeah, no. No.
I assume that was one of the kids' beds.
That's not a good move, Belding.
I might be wrong. I might be making this up. As soon as we wrap this, I'm going to go back and watch the opening again.
Here's a tip, guys, as a teacher.
Take.
Don't go into your students' bedrooms.
No. Don't hang out socially. It's not that hard. It's not that. I'm a big fan of today's youth. I'm not hanging out with them for fun.
I will say, like, my kids do not have the same relationship or view of their teachers that we had of ours.
Really?
My kids love their teachers. They see them as nurturing.
That's lovely.
We didn't really have that. Again, this generation is so amazing. But so are the teachers who are teaching them.
Yeah, it's
they've
different.
learned so much and it's come so far.
It's different, yeah, for sure. So she's hanging out with Mr. Belding because they're best friends. And, he's like, Jessie, you got to relax. Like, I will write you a great letter of recommendation for college. You don't need to stress out. And then she has this really stupid daydream that if she fails this geometry midterm, she's going to end up at Surf University where they don't do anything all day and hang out in their swimsuits and just chill.
It's a disaster fantasy.
Absolutely.
It's the disaster fantasy that Gen X embraced so much. There's always consequences.
Right.
Like if there's a contest, you can win the contest, but if you lose, there's consequences.
If you lose, life is over.
Yep. We call it on our show getting little housed. Like everything will go to hell.
Okay.
Little housed.
Yes. I kind of live and die by that kind of thinking. Do you? I'm a master catastrophizer. Is that how you say that word? I can't say it. Yeah, that's me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, my sister struggles with that a lot. And she'll have to call me up and I'll be like, okay, let's break this down. Like, because you have a scratch on your arm, you're not going to have to cough your leg reading the Bible.
Right.
Like, it's not going to go that way.
But what if it does?
But what if it does?
Yeah, so this is when she proclaims after this, disaster fantasy, I'm going to ace that test no matter what it takes. Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yep.
So we've got some foreshadowing here. So sleazeball manager Zack, he tells the girls the record execs loved you, but they're interested in 3 other girl groups too. Their names are Buns on the Run, Spiked Earlobes, and Zit Hit Machine.
Yeah.
That's the stupidest thing ever.
Because girls are just about bodies and earrings and makeup.
Yeah,
yes.
That's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he decides, we're going to make a music video, and your guys' name is Hot Sundae.
Hot Sundae.
Hot Sundae. Hot, sexy Sundae. And the girls are stoked. They're like, that's so cool. Yeah, we're Hot Sundae. I like it.
First of all, because he spells it A-E, right? Sunday.
Yes. Sundae.
First of all,
like
Hot Sundae sounds absolutely disgusting. Gross.
And super sexual, right? Like hypersexual. And
of course.
They could have called them anything. Anything else.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, Jessie is sort of like, I don't know how I can carve out the time to make this music video. Like, I've got the midterm, I've got student council, I've got honor society, I'm stressing out. And they all beg her. She gives in. Jessie doesn't know how to establish boundaries.
Nope. Jessie can't set boundaries.
No.
She's really the only one who gives a fuck about time management.
Oh, yes, I know.
No one else cares about anything.
No.
I guess no one else is taking this midterm?
Well, they did better on the midterm than she did. And they're not worried about it. And she's just, a mess about it. And she's got all these other commitments. And maybe the girls don't really care because they think they're going to make it big with Hot Sundae.
There you go. Yeah.
We don't need school.
Has a lot of promise.
We're pop stars now. Yeah. So this is the best part. This is when we cut to the making of Hot Sundae's Go For It music video. And I have to say, wow. First of all, wow. It is a
million questions.
Full music video. It's like a full song.
And it's in the Max, correct?
Oh, I didn't catch it. I thought they were in a gym.
I think it's in a revamped Max, but I could be wrong. I think they use the same set, but I could be wrong.
Oh, interesting. I don't know. I didn't catch that.
It looks similar. Looks similar.
But, the girls are dressed in their leotards. They are singing and working out. It is a full music video. It's a full song. It was stuck in my head for a week.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry for you.
I know.
Why? Why?
Why?
Just why? Why does it have to involve physical fitness?
Okay.
Why are we doing aerobics?
Okay, I think we're doing aerobics because aerobics were hot in the 80s. Jane Fonda, Olivia Newton-John physical. It was not.
But not with kids. This is totally a boomer thing. Yep.
Remember Get in Shape Girl?
I do remember that, but wasn't that
Alyssa Milano's Teen Steam, that workout video?
Wait, I don't know that.
Oh. Okay. I think it was called Teen Steam. Yeah, she had a full workout.
It sounds smutty. I would have been into it, I think.
I think like that whole fitness craze, jazzercise-ish stuff of the 80s. You know,
Okay.
we're in 1990. We can't, 1990, we saw a lot of changes happen in the 90s, but like we're on the tail end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s.
true.
I kind of feel like that's just a carryover.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
and
probably
right.
because of the words of the song, it kind of fits. Like, remember, it's like, put your mind to it, go for it, get down and break a sweat, rock and roll, you ain't seen nothing yet. Okay, so that's been in my head for a really long time.
Lovely. Amazing.
Thanks. I hope you really like that rendition because I worked really hard on it. No, I'm just kidding. But like that whole get down and break a sweat, this is rock and roll, we're pretty girls, we're working out.
Okay.
I think that's
All
what
right.
that was. So
Yeah.
So I loved Lisa's cool slow-mo cartwheel. It was so cool. Like, what an influencer. Like, it was funny.
I just feel like, so let's think about this for a minute. If this was some fake record producer.
Right.
Wanting to combat the popularity of the New Kids on the Block and find
Right.
like a female equivalent. New Kids on the Block were not doing this kind of stuff. They were actually doing decent stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, they were dancers and they had harmonies and
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they weren't doing workout videos.
They weren't doing workout videos.
This was like a I don't know, felt like an Olivia Newton-John kind of.
Very much so.
Yeah. Maybe
very
she was
much.
brought in as a
Well, I have a fun
correspondent.
bit of trivia for this. The dancing finger. I'm using that term really loosely. The exercise dancing was choreographed by Berkeley's personal dance teacher, Michael Rooney, who is the son of Mickey Rooney.
Mickey Rooney. Wow.
He choreographed this
Okay.
masterpiece, yes.
Wow.
And
Okay.
if you
Does he
like-
want anyone to know that? Has
I
he
don't
taken
know.
them to court
I'm-
to get that redacted.
Breaking it wide open here, Amy. Yeah. So if you guys like the song, because I mean it's kind of a bop, it sticks in your head. It's featured on the Saved by the Bell soundtrack that came out in 1995. Like, you can get it. You could probably download it on Spotify and add it to your workout playlist if you're so inclined.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
It's there. It's there for you to enjoy. So Kelly, Lisa, and Zach, they tell Jessie, the record producer, again, loved their video. They're coming to the Max tomorrow night. They want to see a live performance. They want to rehearse tonight. And, oh my God, Jessie has to study. This is not good timing.
So this is the choice she's given. You could be the next New Kids on the Block.
Right?
Or you can do a little better on your test.
Right. Choose
like
your
that's-
dream, Jessie Spano.
yeah.
Which one do you want to be?
I feel like she needs to chase her dream here. I don't know.
Yeah. So, they push her. She backs down again. I'll just study after, she says. And Slater finds those caffeine pills in her backpack and he confronts her and she gets super defensive.
Why didn't somebody say, like, look, we can do both. I can come over right after school. I'll help you study. We'll get it done real quick. We'll, study in short bursts, which is what they think is the most effective way to study.
Right.
But no, it's got to take place at night, and it's got to take place right when the audition's happening.
Absolutely. Like, there was no sort of, they weren't trying to find a solution that felt good to Jessie.
No.
It was very, they were all very selfish. And it was just like, come on, what's wrong? Come on. And she's like, I don't want to disappoint. Okay, fine.
Yeah. It's kind of like when people were trying to lure me out of my house after quarantine. Come on. I'm like,
You weren't
I've had a
ready,
year away
yeah.
from people. I don't want to get back out there.
It's
kinda
still
nice,
hard.
but-
It's still
It's
hard.
still hard. Yeah.
I went out last night and I'm like exhausted. Like, I'll be exhausted for 3 days. And I was
isn't
out
that
for
weird?
2 hours. Like, I don't know how to
Yep.
people anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
And
bad
I'm
at
okay
it.
with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, though. To some extent. I think I was peopling too much.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Taking
So
it back.
This is good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but are people like, you now at this age, and I wasn't good at this when I was young either. I was a lot like Jessie. I think if I was pushed, I would just fold. Now I'm just sort of like,
Yes.
now I can
Yes.
hold my boundary in a way that I couldn't do before.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes like, I think that's just an age thing with women.
Yeah.
You know, like, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, once you hit 38, you don't give a fuck anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, and I'm like, I would say even maybe over 40. You're just like, you fall in love with those boundaries.
And I think,
you get real good at setting them.
I like to believe that that's like an evolution of my personal character, but I honestly believe that it has so much more to it has more to do with being physically tired. So I recognize now I just don't have the energy. My energy is super limited. So I have to be really thoughtful and mindful about how I spend it. So if this is going to require a vast amount of my energy, I just can't do it because I run out. I literally run out.
Yeah, my kids call it their social battery.
Oh,
like
smart.
My one daughter's very outgoing, and my other daughter is kind of an introvert, and she's like, they call me mommy still, which is ridiculous.
Adorable.
But she'll be like,
I love that.
She'll be like, Mommy, I can't go to that party because my social battery's just drained from going to the game yesterday or whatever. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and I've heard that this is the real, like the definition of an introvert versus an extrovert. An introvert feels depleted by social situations, and extroverted feels energized.
Yes.
It charges them in a way rather than depletes them. And so, I'm depleted by social interaction.
When I was younger, though, I was an extrovert, 100%. And I think that's starting to change. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Jessie's definitely an introvert then, right? We think, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think she wants to do all the things. I think she really, her spirit really wants to do it all. I just think there are limits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't.
All this dancing and exercising.
I mean, right?
Just draining her social
Good
battery.
Lord. She's tired. The next day in class, Jessie is like speed talking, like, right? And she's acting super hyped, and everyone around her is like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Is she on cocaine?
Right. Like, she takes her midterm at warp speed. Mm-hmm. And they're just like, what's going on with Jessie? And Slater tells the gang, Jessie's taking drugs, and I'm worried about her. Okay. They cut immediately to rehearsal. No one says anything, even though she's acting insane. She's bouncing off walls.
Yes. Like I don't know how she didn't have a heart attack.
Right? Like, how did her heart not explode?
And the episode is 22 minutes long. This comes at like minute 18. They spend a long time on the setup for this instead of on the resolution.
Yeah. And now, the resolution's like, 2 minutes.
We're done.
and nobody, Slater full on told the gang, Jessie's taking drugs. I'm worried about her. Next scene, rehearsal. She's bouncing off the walls. Yeah, she's clapping. I'm hyped. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Ready. It's good.
And nobody says anything.
No, nobody says anything.
Why? Because it fits their agenda. She has high energy. She's going to bring it tonight. They're going to get a huge
I'm shocked they
deal.
weren't piling more on. Like, Jessie,
Here.
You got to be better. You got to do better. They're, once in a lifetime shot. This is it.
Nope. They're just like, oh, she's acting kind of crazy today. Huh? Okay, fine.
Okay.
So in the very next scene, we see Zack in Jessie's room, and Jessie's asleep on her bed, and he goes to wake her up.
Zack just walks into her room.
Just walks into her room. Yes, she could be naked. He doesn't know.
No knocking.
No. He just walks right into her room. She's asleep. He wakes her up. He's like, Jessie, we got to go. We got to go to the Max. It's Hot Sunday's big performance. Like, let's go. And she's super disoriented. She's really confused. She thinks like, oh, I have to take my midterm. And he's like, no, you already took it. You took it today. She's like, I have to wash my hair. And he's like, no, there's no time. We got to go.
This is alarming. This behavior's alarming.
Oh, yeah. Like she doesn't know what day it is. She doesn't understand time, space. Yep. Where am I? Like
she's completely disoriented.
So disoriented. And
he just wants to shove her into a costume and get her down there.
He's literally like escorting her along, like he's moving her body into the direction out the door so we can go. You don't need it. You don't need your clothes. Like, Lisa's got the costumes. Come on. We got to go. There's no time. And this is the breakdown moment, right? Mm-hmm. This is when she's like, no time. I don't have time to study. I'll never get into Stanford. I'm going to let everybody down. I'm so confused. And then she remembers her pills and she goes for the pills. She's like, everything's going to be okay. I just need one of these. And he's like, what are you doing? No. And he's trying to take them. And she's like, I need them. I need to sing. And then she starts singing, I'm so excited again. I'm so excited. And then she's like, I'm so scared. And she breaks down and sobs. And she just folds. Her body folds into his. And she breaks down.
I'm pissed off. I wrote here, why does Zack get the emotional payoff of this episode when Slater has been the only one with a conscience?
Okay, that's really a good point. I didn't even consider that.
I was so pissed off about that.
I mean, he drove her to the breaking point.
Right. Why does Zack come in and get the payoff, like, to save the day? And poor Slater, who's been,
Poor misogynistic Slater.
Poor toxic masculinity Slater. He just.
I don't know. Like, I actually remember watching this episode. I remember it. And I remember, like, being so sucked into this scene. I mean, I thought this was the best acting I ever saw in my life. I mean, I was like, wow. It made an impression on me. Peter Engel told The Ringer that the scene was filmed more than 25 times, to which I have to say, what the fuck is wrong with NBC to push this girl to do this 25 times? Where are they?
They were doing it in the same...
Right? Like, I think the breakdown was real. So Peter Engel said, quote, I kept saying, let them do one more. But the control room said no. They were probably like, she's been through enough. But he said, I knew they could do it. Mark Paul was almost in tears at that point. No shit. No shit.
Oh my God, is Peter Engel the real life Zack Morris?
I don't know. Is Peter Engel trash? I don't know. Allegedly. We're not trying to get sued here. I don't know.
Is he like sitting in the control room being like, just keep going, keep pushing, keep pushing?
I don't know. And then he says, Elizabeth was amazing. Then they did it on the 26th take.
Wow.
Everyone in the studio started to break down and cry. Probably because they felt really bad for the actors on stage.
They probably want to go home.
We've been here for hours.
Wow, that's intense.
Isn't that the craziest thing you ever heard?
That's crazy. That is art imitating life. I mean, that is life imitating art, whatever.
That's super
crazy.
Meta. It's super meta.
Super meta, wow.
And it's framed in this way that, like, isn't this amazing? And I'm like, isn't this problematic? Isn't this abuse?
It's framed in this way of, but I was a boomer white dude, and I pushed these kids really hard and got them to crack. Wasn't that great?
Pull up your bootstraps, kids. Yes. This is what it takes.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
my God.
Yes.
Wow.
Very, very boomer mentality, right?
Yeah. And when I think about it, like, I have not seen this episode in a long time, so when I went back and rewatched it, I had misremembered, and I thought Zack had been the one trying to kind of save her the whole time. And I think it's because I remembered the emotional payoff and Zack being there for it. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So Berkeley said, nobody was like blowing menthol into my eyes to get me to cry. I mean, the thing was so clear to me that she was just someone failing in every category and can't keep treading water. So she just kind of had that flip. I personally think that filming the scene 26 times made her flip, but there you go.
I'd be interested to see take 7.
Right?
Like, how different was it, really? How different?
I bet you it's one of those things. They probably nailed it on take 1. And then they're like, we could do better. We could do more. Let's try it again. Let's do it this way.
Yeah.
I don't know. So meanwhile, back at the max, I hate these scenes. These filler, comic relief, screech, stupid-ass scenes. I hate this kind of thing. It's so insulting to the audience's intelligence, and I think I probably loved it at the time, which is why they had that kind of stuff in it. Like, so Hot Sundae comes out to perform. Jessie's not there because she's, addicted to pills and she's having a nervous breakdown. And so who fills in as the third member? Screech. The other two could have just done it without her.
Right.
Like,
why
he didn't need to be there. He made a joke.
Members?
He made a mockery out of it.
He made a mockery out of Hot Sundae.
How dare he? They had potential. And as an adult, like, going back and watching the Screech scenes, like, I just keep wanting to punch him in the face. And I mean, may he rest in peace. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, ugh.
See, I have the opposite effect. I have the opposite reaction, I mean. I want to go back and save him. I feel like he was being just exploited. Yes. I feel like Zack is just this overlord.
Oh, my God. Well, poor Screech just wanted friends. He just wanted to be liked.
It's kind of like my sister always mistakes redheaded men for the kid in A Christmas Story. Every time we see a movie from the 80s with the redheaded kid.
Are you talking about Malachi from Children of the Corn?
So we were watching Children of the Corn.
I know, I listened to your episode.
Yes, and Jenny's like, that's the kid. She does this all the time, though. And I feel like it kind of predisposed us to not like redheaded boys because we thought they were bullies. And I feel like Zack Morris is the prototype for the bro. He's a
Chad. He's a total Chad.
Yes.
Wow.
And that's why we just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I jumped ahead a little bit, but that's my why I'm going to talk about later. So I'll make that point better. Yes.
Yeah. So, it's a stupid scene at the max, whatever, fine. Then we see, this goes back to what you were saying, Amy, your resolution of, 120 seconds where Jessie's resting in bed and the gang just gathers around her and she apologizes to them for letting them down. And they're all like, yeah, we kind of pushed hard. Sorry. But she's just like, you guys, I let you down. I'm so sorry. And then she's like, I've got a real problem. My mom's taking me to the doctor tomorrow for counseling. I've got to learn that it's okay if I'm not the best at everything, which is a nice, neat little bow. I will say I did appreciate the mention of counseling.
I did too.
Mental health was not
that was big.
Really a thing. I mean, they spent all of, 4 seconds on it. I wish there was a little more to it. I'm glad that she mentioned it. However, it was just a little blip mention of mental health and the need for some therapy and or counseling. And then they're all loving and supportive the end. Like, it wrapped up very quickly.
Do you remember Golden Girls? Do you like Golden Girls?
Oh, yes.
Do you remember when Dorothy was trying to find a specialist who would diagnose her with, was it depression? I forget what she had.
I don't remember what she had, but I remember that was really revolutionary.
It was revolutionary.
Shocking. Because remember, in those days, that's when they called therapists shrinks. Like, it was a whole, they're going to shrink your head. Like, it was almost considered quackery.
Yep.
It was very
and
different.
Dorothy was going around and they were just telling her that she was old or she was bored.
She was being gaslit.
Yes, she's like, no, there's really something wrong with me.
Yes.
And it turned out that, I want to say it was depression. Guys, I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong, but I want to say that's what it was. And
but it was something legit. Like, it was legit mental health issue.
Yes, and it was such an important episode. They had the ability to do that here for teenagers. Like, they could have done that on the teenage
and
scale.
They really didn't. I feel like this is where, and this was, okay, for what it is. It was a sitcom. It was a comedy. They didn't delve into deep things. I mean, 90210 took it upon themselves to tackle every issue ever experienced by every teenager ever. Like, it was a lot. It was heavy. It was a lot. Like, I think by season 2, they had already been through so much trauma. Like, every character had just been through the ringer. And so they kind of went real heavy-handed. They went like,
Yeah.
woo, on the pendulum. It just swung so completely. So for a sitcom to tackle a serious issue, I mean, I applaud
Well, I wonder, like,
ish.
how different would it have been if she just had at the end, like, a conversation with her mother, who we never see in this whole thing.
We never see.
And the mother's talking about, you know, how this is a normal, acceptable mental illness, and a lot of kids suffer from mental illness, and there's help and there's treatment, and here's what it looks like, and, you know, this is what we're going to do to help you.
I mean, they should have. Instead, they took those 2 minutes and they had Screech perform in her place at the Max.
Right.
That was the choice, the creative choice.
You're right.
Peter Engel
Bingo.
made.
That was the 2 minutes.
That was the 2 minutes. You could have made it up right there, no problem.
Yep.
But they
there
didn't.
you go. Because we don't see the parents, like, at all.
Oh, no. They're like, these kids are like Charlie Brown kids. They're like Peanuts characters. Like, their parents are just like, wah, wah, wah. And Mr. Belding is the only, like, adult, you know, who's dishing out any sort of, like, reasonable advice on this show. It's never the parents.
No, never. Mm-mm. Even the teachers.
Oh,
I mean,
they're like
kind of there, but
I mean, the geometry teacher was just like a very flat cheeseball character.
think about this in comparison to something that came later, Boy Meets World. How involved the parents were.
I never watched it. Were they very involved?
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. That's such a good show. I loved it so much.
You know, it's one of those things that just kind of fell off my radar. You know,
I was like 25 watching
spots?
it like a big old loser.
It's so weird, though, when something is like culturally so relevant and it's just like a big old blind spot for you. And you're just like, I don't know. I missed it. I don't know where I was. I don't know what I was doing.
I have that with My So-Called Life and never saw an episode.
Oh, it's like my favorite.
I know. My sister loves it.
Oh, my
And I never saw an episode.
It's so good. It's so good. Oh, that show.
Boy Meets World, like, the parents are really heavily involved. You see them all the time. They're there. Like, it's just, it shows the change, you know, when you compare them.
Shift. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, it just ends like that. And Peter Engel, our resident Zack Morris, said, "The night we shot it, I knew it would hit a nerve. The response from the actors and the audience was unbelievable." And even to this day, you know, when we talk about the legacy of this episode, because it really is so infamous, it's everywhere. There's memes about it. You know, we all like to kind of snicker and laugh and talk about it. Elizabeth Berkley said, "I have a great sense of humor about it, especially if it's a wink or a nod to it. But those moments were rooted in something passionate and sometimes can feel over the top. It was fun and broad, but I think at the core, the reason why people are obsessed with that episode is that it must have struck some sort of chord." Yeah. I mean, it did, whether it hit you as hilarious or it hit you as serious or it hit you as someone who's like, I'm going to stay away from caffeine pills.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember it, right?
Yeah, so I had emailed you and told you, like, at the end of our episodes on our podcast, we talk about a why all the time. That's the whole premise of our podcast. So we're like, Gen X, this is why, you know, and then we have some kind of residual drama from whatever happened to Carolyn and the kids that week or whatever. So I was trying to think, like, what is my why from this? Like, what did I take away from it as a young person?
Right.
It was definitely two things. Like, one, I just have an aversion to that Chad, that bro type of person. I'm just immediately biased towards those people, and I think I have PTSD from Zack Morris. And then second, I was terrified of drugs. Terrified of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just specifically this episode, but it's like we talked about in the beginning, the whole shebang.
Messaging of that time.
Yes. Yeah. So what would you say is your why about this?
Okay, so I came up with 3.
Okay.
This is why I stick to coffee. I believe in coffee. Coffee has served me well. I enjoy
Nature
it.
stimulant. Yep.
Nature stimulant. I'm not buying, you know, over-the-counter caffeine pills. Yes.
Nope.
Also, this is why Stanford is overrated. You could get a great education at a lot of wonderful institutions, including junior colleges, which I really believe in.
Yes.
And, you know, you don't have to go to Surf University.
Yes.
Also, this is why geometry ruins lives, Amy.
Math ruins lives.
I mean,
I'm
math
with you on
just
that.
sucks so hard.
Yes. I'm with you on that 100%.
Right? I mean, that's just how I feel about it.
When I have to put my students in groups, like say I have 32 students and I have to put them in 6 groups, I am just...
You open your phone, calculator.
I'm like the head exploding emoji in real life. Like I am just frozen in fear. And I have to do long division on the board and I still can't figure it out. And
in front of an audience? Math in front of an audience?
My students laugh at me so hard. They're like, this is like, we're just going to sit back and let this happen because we're not going to rescue you.
They're like, let me help you out with some Common Core. We can get to this much quicker.
Yes. Yeah.
So funny.
Let's take a break from dissecting Othello to try to figure out like 78 minus 11.
They're like, you can't borrow. I remember when I was helping my kids with math, they're like, we don't do it that way. We don't cross it out. No, you don't borrow the one. I was like, I don't know how to teach this to you. This is some bullshit. The math you're learning,
Common Core
I don't
math.
understand.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
It's really strange.
Remember when our parents were like, you won't always have a calculator with you? And we're like, we showed you.
Yeah, we do. We have like every tool imaginable in our pocket.
Right. I could take a picture of this math problem and it'll solve it for me.
Well, Lori, I mean, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for summarizing the episode, for suggesting the episode, for the research you did. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, Amy, it was so my pleasure. I had such a good time talking to you about this and talking about why Zack Morris is trash.
Yes, he's trash. So just a reminder that you could find me at Gen X This Is Why, letter X, spell out the Y, and tell everyone where they can find you if they don't remember.
I am at the Untitled Gen X podcast on most social media platforms.
You are owning your social media, by the way.
I'm trying.
You're doing
I'm still super afraid of TikTok. I don't.
Yeah,
are you active over there?
No, I can't go near it. I made some videos where I like superimpose my face over Carolyn and I'm like in love with Charles Ingalls because I'm madly in love with him. But I mean, I'm not in love with Michael Landon, but I'm madly in love with Michael Landon as Charles Ingalls in the 70s.
Okay.
But that's it. I stay away from it.
Yeah,
I'm on Instagram mostly.
It makes my brain hurt. It feels like math. I don't want to do it. I don't know. I don't want to do it.
And I will definitely link your show in my show notes. So
I will as well.
So if you're listening on either of our free feeds, then we can link each other and you can find us there.
Yes, and thank you for the crossover opportunity. I love a crossover. It's my favorite thing. It was so much
love
fun,
a good
Amy.
Crossover. Yep. Thank you, Lori.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon.